On today's episode, I want to touch on something that a friend of mine said to me, a few days ago when we were talking about a few things, and she said, "Leonie, you've got this like real ability to just do the inner work, to just dive in there, to see the things that that keep you stuck, right? These patterns and beliefs and things." She's like, "You just dive in, like it's a natural ability." And, I sat with it and I shared it with her as well, that it is actually, you know, yes, I've got the ability to dive in, but the thing is that it's not a natural ability. It is a learned skill. It is something that I have had to cultivate over many years of doing kind of the inner work, right? And the way that I got to, how I got to this point where I have the ability to so naturally dive into and do the inner work and recognize things when they come up in the moment, right? Moment to moment to moment, is because I developed my sense of awareness and I developed my relationship with my intuition. Now, awareness and intuition, the two spirit senses, those two spirit senses are really, really important. And if you can dive into them, if you can start building your awareness and building a relationship with your intuition, you will also find that it becomes easy to dive into the inner work. If you don't understand what I mean by the inner work, it simply means that, if you have, let's say you've got issues with, um, what's a common one? Attracting the wrong guys, right? Just attracting the same men that just, hurt you or abuse you or just, narcissistic or whatever it is. Let's say you just continue drawing those people into your life. Then when you don't have awareness, you keep going in and out of those relationships, and you might wonder, you might even get to a point where you go, what's wrong with me? Okay. When you have that relationship built with awareness and intuition, what happens then is when you have a conversation with a guy, if you want to go into a new relationship, or with a girl for that matter, and you have the conversation, your awareness is going to give you the red flags that everybody talk about. So we're going to talk about the red flags, or they're going to use certain words, certain actions that are going to light up for you. And then that in that moment, you're going to have the awareness that this is not the right person for you. And this is a pattern, that you keep drawing this specific type of person into your reality. And then quite often it comes with an intuitive nudge to stop sending them messages, don't communicate with them anymore, and, give you nudges to break that connection with them. So the more awareness you have, the more you build that relationship with your intuition, the more it's going to help you in the moment have the realization of what is actually happening. Now, I've had actually talk about, it's interesting that I chose that example because I had, I remember I was having a chat with a guy online. I was texting. And then at the same time, I had another conversation with a client, and they were asking me about intuition and about awareness. So on the one side, I'm having a conversation with the client, and this person who wanted to know about awareness and intuition and how it impacts our life. And on the other hand, I was having a conversation with this guy who was interested in me. And it was the most surreal. I think this was the first time that it actually happened to me. And since then, it's happened quite a lot. But what happened was, as I am texting this guy, I had this out of body experience where I was observing myself have this conversation with this man. And then my intuition drew me to the other conversation, which was your awareness. And then it just was like, oh, wow, look at the words he was using, feel into the energy. Are you aware of what's happening right now with this conversation with this guy that was interested in me? So I then immediately, when I noticed it and I had this out of body experience, I cut that conversation short and I was like, look, I don't feel like this conversation is going to go anywhere and I'm really not interested in taking this anywhere. So that was one of my first out of body experiences, that observer, like real observer experience. Now, it's not always like that for me. It's not always, where you have that out of body experience. But what happens on the regular, definitely, is that I will be in a conversation, I will be going through something, I would be listening to a podcast, and I will have intuitive nudges and I will have insight drop in and I'll have awarenesses of what they are. When those words are spoken, they are in my awareness immediately, and immediately they connect back to what it is that is holding me back, what it is that's blocking me. It connects back to past trauma, it connects back to my childhood, it connects back to my business, to clients, to whatever it is. As I'm receiving the information, I receive the insight immediately. And then, with the insight, quite often comes the next step, which is the intuitive side, which is the voice of your soul. Your intuition is literally the voice of your soul. It is there to guide you. Now, it's really important for us to learn how to use the intuition and how to build a relationship. So many people, clients that come through, they're like, I don't even know how to recognize my intuition. So how do I even begin to trust it? How do I follow my intuition, follow the gut feelings? Like, I have had that experience where I can, feel my stomach turn, or I know I had, I've said things like, I had a feeling that guy was just no good, or I had a feeling that that business deal was going to fall through. That feeling is part of your intuition. Okay. Now, if you haven't heard of my traffic light game, for how I teach my students and clients and how I help people build trust, recognize and build trust with their intuition, then you are going to love this. So most of us travel on the road, whether it's on a bus or, in a car or even just walking. Here's what you do. So first of all, what we want to do is we want to recognize our intuition. Okay. Then when we've recognized our intuition, we want to start trusting our intuition so that we can take the steps, right? So when we get information from our soul, we need to not just recognize it, but we need to trust it. And then after trust comes taking action on the intuition that we received. And then also, when we've taken those steps, then there needs to be some form of validation. Now, let's say, for instance, you want to buy a house, and you go for this house, and then you're busy with the paperwork, and then you get an intuitive hit that says, this is not the right house, don't buy it, right? Then when you take the action and you pull back and say, this is not for me, then maybe, 2 months later, you find out that the house flooded. That then becomes the validation. But what we want to do in this process of getting you validation, instant validation, so that we can start reprogramming your subconscious mind, start telling your subconscious mind that it is okay and it is safe to trust this intuition, right? Because the subconscious mind, if it's something different, then it's going to try and keep you safe and talk you out of listening to the intuition. So what this traffic light game does is it gives you every aspect of the process of receiving the information, acting on the information, the validation, everything. All right, so this is how it goes. When you stop at the traffic light, you are going to expect a number to drop into your head. Now, intuition works like this. it is really soft. So you've got to really pay attention. You have to have awareness for when that number drops into your head. So when that number drops into your head, like it's going to be a whisper and it's going to be in your own voice. It will drop into your head. And then when that number drops into your head, I want you to start taking action by counting backwards down to 0. So let's say I'm driving down the road and I get to the traffic light and I'm having a conversation or listening to the radio, whatever, and I notice a number drops into my head. Now, the number that's just dropped into my head was a number 8. So then when I notice that number drop in, I'm going to start counting backwards out loud if you can. If there's, if you're not in a bus or if you've got family and friends with you, just count out loud. Let them know what you're doing. So then we're going to go 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. When we get to 1 or 0, the validation of the action that we took, okay, is going to be the light turning green for you to go. Can you see it? So then when it turns green and you go, I want you to celebrate in some way, a fist pump or yeah, I did it, or, high five the person next to you or whatever it is. But what we're doing is that we are expecting guidance to come in. So we want the intuition to talk to us. We want our soul to give us information. And then when we receive it, we are going to act on it, which is the counting. And then once we start counting down, you receive the validation, which is the light turning green, which then starts programming your subconscious mind that tells you that it is okay for you to trust your inner voice. Then you celebrate it because you want to acknowledge your soul. You want to acknowledge the information that you are receiving. So that is my way of helping my clients get around building, that relationship with their intuition. Now, if you're wondering, how can I start building a relationship with my awareness? Like, how can I build my sense of awareness? Because it really is a muscle. You have to build that muscle. Now, what I do with my clients, the first thing that I tell them is, I want you to start paying attention to the first thoughts that pop into your head in the morning. So when you wake up in the morning, you open up your eyes, what is that first thought? Because the truth is your first thoughts will kind of snowball your energy for the day. So if you're waking up with a thought that, you wake up and you're like, oh my God, I'm so tired. Do I really have to go to work? That then sets the stage for a day of misery, essentially, right? So you're tired, you don't want to get up, you don't want to be doing it. Whereas if you wake up in the morning and the first thought that you think is, how lucky am I to be alive? Or I am so grateful for this new day. Or how amazing is it that I can actually put my feet on the ground and get up and walk to the bathroom to brush my teeth? That sets a very different tone for the day. So this is the very first step in building awareness. And as you strengthen that muscle, you will notice that you build that muscle and then it starts overflowing into the rest of your day, where you start noticing things during your day. Your awareness spills over into your conversations. It spills over into your food, your eating habits, how when you eat something, how it makes you feel. And then you go, well, maybe this is not for me. And then you can make changes. Or when you are standing in the kitchen and you're making food, and then your teenager comes walking into the kitchen and all of a sudden you start feeling agitated. And then you have the awareness that it's not yours, it's actually your teenager's, and then you don't take on the energy, right? So many different ways that awareness can actually support us. If you look at awareness in, relationships, the more awareness you have of yourself, the more awareness you'll have of your partner. And then that can support you in having difficult conversations or making it a beautiful partnership. Okay. The more awareness you have, the more you can see what's happening there, and then you can change things. In your business, if your awareness is there, if your awareness is dialed up, and you are in tune with your intuition, you can hear the guidance come through. It is going to support you in your marketing. It's going to support you in niching down what it is that you want to do. And oh my God, I've been through that process. Holy hell, it's been a ride, but it has been an absolute blessing to have my awareness and intuition to help me through this process and get me to this point where I am now. So it can help you across the board, right? So when my friend said, Leonie, you've got this natural ability of diving into spotting the inner work, spotting whatever's blocking you and diving into it, I wanted to share this with you because it really isn't an ability. It's a skill. Now, granted that my life, the experiences that I had as a child, growing up with, my dad. Part of my younger years, my dad was an alcoholic, and there was whatever was coming with that. And then later, thank God, my dad found Christ and he went into the church with my mum, so that life changed completely for me. But all of with that experience as a child, later on abuse, and a few other things that have happened in my life, I from a very young age built and had to build a really big sense of awareness because it was for my safety, right? So yes, my life has kind of shaped me to have maybe a bit more awareness than what maybe you perhaps have. But I'm telling you now that it is not, you didn't need to go through the things that I went through for you to be able to build that sense of awareness. All you need to do is start with one thing and pay attention to the thoughts that you have first thing in the morning, and then how it impacts your day. And the more awareness you build, the more you have, the opportunity when a negative thought comes in, you have the opportunity to stop it in its tracks and reframe it. And this is one of the things that I did when I went through, in my early 20s, I went through depression and I had anxiety, and it was a really rough time. And, for me, my journey took me to a place where I attempted suicide. I wanted out of this life. I didn't want to be here. Thank God that my boyfriend at the time found me. But the one thing that helped me navigate depression by myself, back then I didn't have, psychologists and other people, coaches or whatever, the help that we have kind of now. And I had to step into my awareness even more. And the way I used my awareness with turning around my depression was that whenever it dropped in, whenever I started feeling that darkness creep in, whenever I started feeling my emotions go down, whenever I started feeling that depression come on, I would physically stop and bring my awareness to my body. And I would physically turn my body around and walk the other way and say, I am no longer choosing that life. I am choosing a new life. And I had to do that often, and I had to do it over and over and over and over. And eventually it reprogrammed my mind. And it didn't just reprogram my mind, it boosted my awareness to a level that I'd never experienced before. So you can do this too. You can also step into your awareness by doing this one simple thing. So I'm going to leave the episode there. If you found value in this episode, please leave me a comment. I'd love to hear your feedback. I would love to hear the moments of insight that you guys have. because it kind of fuels me. It fuels my journey as well, so that I can bring more content to you. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comments, or there's even a form that you can fill out with questions that I have in the notes. So if you go into the description of the podcast, the episode, you will see that there's a form that you can fill out, even leave a voice note if you wanted to share, perhaps something that you would like help with, something that I can bring awareness and perhaps help you with your intuition or your gifts or the journey that you're on. So, and another thing, guys, you know what? It will make my day if you take literally a minute to go and rate and perhaps share the show with somebody else, because I would love to share this message with the world. I have got a big mission. I want to reach 5 million people. Okay, 5 million people I want to reach with the message of awareness and intuition. Because just think about it. How epic would the world be if your neighbor and the stranger on the street and our politicians and our kids all have a heightened sense of awareness and they are more in tune with what is happening around them? So help me spread the message, rate the show, share it, and it will just help me reach more people. All right. I'm going to leave it there. Have an amazing day and stay in awareness.